Football fans and even fans of clever commercials are getting ready to watch the Super Bowl this weekend. For years, the NFL championship has involved friendly wagers. In this year's matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers will be no different. Others have laid down more than just a casual wager. A 2018 U.S. Supreme Court decision opened the door for tribes across the country to accept sports betting in their casinos. Here in New Mexico, Santa Ana, Laguna, and Isleta Pueblos have started sports books. Other tribes are exploring the option too. This week, NMIF correspondent Antonia Gonzalez looks at sports gambling at Isleta, how the Pueblo chose to open its sports book, what business is like, and what other tribes are weighing before they act.
Joining me now are Edward Calabasa, a former Isleta Tribal Council member, and Stacy Chaffins, Isleta Player Development Manager at the casino. Welcome to New Mexico PBS.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well, sports betting is fairly new after the 2018 Supreme Court opened it up for states and tribes. A number of tribes across the country, including here in New Mexico, decided to try it out, including Isleta. Can you tell us a little bit, Ed, how that idea came about for the tribe?
Well, the Tribal Council had been talking about that possibility because we knew that that case was making its way through the Supreme Court. Once they made their ruling with our general counsel, we started putting things in motion. We wanted to know more information as to really what are the percentages, what would be the win and loss. Was it worth it for us to do that? Because it meant reconstructing a part of the casino to build a sports book. And so would we be able to recoup that cost, the investment, our ROI, was that going to be there? So we did a number of things like calling other tribes, visiting Las Vegas. We also went to the UNLV School of Gambling, took a course there, visited casinos there in Las Vegas, and then we started feeling out the waters as to who was going to set our betting lines and how much did they want on their end for taking that risk and responsibility. So it wasn't something as fast as, hey, the Supreme Court made its decision, tomorrow we're going to start sports betting. There was a lot of research and we had to do our homework, so to speak.
And Stacy, you were involved as well as, like Ed is talking about, going to the classes and learning about sports betting. And how was that beneficial to having the fruition of the sports book opening at the casino?
The training was really good. The UNLV training that we went to, we had another GLI come and train us on property. It helped overall get more people in the casino familiar, employee-wise, different departments, so they would understand what this was all about and how we were going to start. And we started in a temporary location, and then we moved. They had the construction done to build the new sports book.
And how has it been received so far by guests?
It's been received very well. It's grown our demographic of people that come into the casino. It's a group that we probably didn't have before, and now we have more people that are interested in the sports book that might use our entertainment in our restaurants or play tables as well. So it's definitely grown our demographics of people. And
how do you see that as part of achieving a goal for the tribe? There was a lot of millions of dollars went into the renovation for the sports book. How is that? What were some of those ideas behind that decision?
Well, really, it's just another amenity. If we're not going to offer it, our guests may go to another casino that has it. Santa Ana was the first in the state to do it, and almost immediately, I know friends who are also sports bettors, they went there almost immediately, and they would stay there in that Bernalillo area and not visit the other casino like Sandia or Isleta, Route 66, because we weren't offering it at that time. So Santa Ana really had the motherlode of people who are interested in sports betting. Sports bettors may go with their wives, and their wives may play the slots. Sports bettors want to go to the sports book. So it's a happy medium for everybody. In terms of getting back those costs, I mean, we were excited when we finally moved from that temporary location to the big sports book location. New Mexico is unique in terms of its compact because we cannot allow Class 3 gaming with alcohol to be infused. So we're unique in that we need a divider to separate where we're making the transactions and the bar that's located inside the sports book. If that makes, if you've visited that section. I mean, a lot of people have the misnomer that we're like Las Vegas and people are walking around the casino with alcohol, and that's just not the case. So New Mexico is unique in that they make those stipulations. Those are part of the compacts that we have with the state.
It's like like you're saying, and if you go to any tribal casino, the
That's
bar, the alcohol, wherever that's being sold.
The
is
alcohol
separate
stays
from.
in the bar and it has to be separated from the Class 3 gaming. That's correct.
And when it comes to gambling, any kind of gambling or even tribal casinos, there's a lot of opinions.
Sure.
And then adding to sports betting, there's also a lot of opinions on that. Was there any kind of pushback because it has to do particularly with sports and betting on sports?
I think the biggest pushback that we heard because was that we were not going to restrict our gambling. For instance, with the two schools in New Mexico, University of New Mexico and New Mexico State University Athletics. We were not going to restrict betting on those two entities. Santa Ana from the get-go said we're not going to take bets on those two schools. So really that was the initial discussion. Other than that, I don't know that we've felt any kind of negative ramifications from that. There's always a concern, and there was concern even back when I started making bets back in the early 90s and late 80s. You couldn't go to Las Vegas and bet on the UNLV Rebels. You could only bet on the Rebels in Reno, Nevada, or Lake Tahoe, and vice versa. The University of Nevada, Reno, you couldn't make bets on those teams in Reno. You had to go to Las Vegas or elsewhere, Laughlin, to make those bets. So I think that's all come full circle. I think people are understanding that games aren't being fixed. And there is always going to be that suspicion, but I think we've come a long way in terms of recognizing, and Stacy can talk more about the way that they monitor gambling activity. There are player profiles that are set up, and if there's a change, a huge hiccup in some, like for instance, I'll bet $20, $25 here and there on a game. If for some reason I go into the casino and make a $5,000 bet that's completely out of the ordinary, then suspicions are going to start to arise. And that's how you kind of track, monitor, and look into different types of suspicious activity.
Do you want to add anything to that, Stacy?
At Isleta, we do require a Players Club card to make a sports book bet. That also helps us recognize, if, like Edward said, if you're making $20, $25 bets and then jump up to $5,000, there's a suspicion there. Is that really your play? So we do monitor that internally as well through our compliance to make sure that we do know our customers.
And I also was interested in when you were going through the discussions and going to these different schools and learning about sports betting, was there any kind of discussion about how this may bring to light illegal sports betting at all? Was that part of discussions?
Yeah, at the training they identified two major scandals that have erupted, and there's only been two with college basketball. That was at the Boston College and at Arizona State. And the way they found out the Arizona State one was you had these kids that were coming in from Tempe wearing their Arizona State memorabilia, but they were betting on the other team. So that gave rise to suspicion, like, what are these kids doing? Like, what do they know that we don't? And that went over a period of several weeks until they finally just took Arizona State off the board. And then down the road, after some investigations, after calls to the school, they found out that there was some game fixing, some point shaving, is what they call it, that was going on there. And then, of course, the Boston College one is infamous because it was arranged by the mob. There were members of the mob that fixed those games. And I believe one of them is the lead character in a mob movie. But yeah, that was at Boston College.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about Players Club and some of the measures Isleta takes to kind of track or prevent any kind of, I guess, dishonesty maybe. Do you have anything to add to that or what Ed was saying?
It also helps with us marketing-wise, so we can kind of see who bets on the sports games and also goes to the tables and slots, and we can give offers and promotions according to that. We in the sports book are currently doing a promotion. Every time you make a bet, you get a drawing ticket, and then on March 1st we'll do a drawing for two or a pair of tickets to the Final Four game. So it's kind of, we're trying to put out there that we, would like your business, and we'll also kind of give promotions back due to us being able to take the Players Club card. So that definitely has helped us for a few reasons, so it's good.
And, like we said at the beginning of this talk, that this is fairly new for states, tribes. It's I believe, is it nearly a year old, the sports book now?
Not even 6 months.
It hasn't been a year. Actually, when we started the process, the initial goal was to try and get the sports book up by March Madness last year. So thank goodness it'll be up now. Super Bowl was a little bit far-reaching, but those are two big events, and those are arguably the two biggest sports betting events that will take place in a calendar year. So we were gunning for the March Madness date, but that never happened. There were some just delays in terms of wanting to be thorough, wanting to cross the T's, dot the I's, that whole thing. We had other members of the tribal council that had no interest in us pursuing that, and so we had others that had never been to a sports book, and so it just took a lot of education, like I said, a lot of research. We wanted to do our homework to make sure this was the right thing for us to do.
So what do you hope for the future? And then Stacy can add to that too, for when it comes to sportsbook and sports betting at Isleta.
Quite honestly, my hope as this thing progresses would be that we are able to get apps on the mobile phone and then be able to bet like they do in Nevada. So in Nevada, there's a geo fence that goes around the state, and you can make a bet on your phone. And so that gives rise to in-game wagers. For instance, if somebody is fouled in a basketball game and has free throws coming up, the in-game wagerings will he make the free throws, or will he make 1 out of 2 free throws? Will he make both free throws? And you can they put up those odds almost instantly, and it's just a more exciting, funner way, in my opinion, to watch a game. It's like the prop bets for the Super Bowl. They have different bets of what color is the Gatorade going to be, who's going to win the coin toss, will somebody make an interception that will be run back for a touchdown. I mean, there's hundreds of these prop bets that take place. How long will the national anthem go? And so, again, it's just one of those things. It's just for me as a longtime sports watcher and sports advocate, it just brings more excitement to the game.
And Stacy?
I just think that right now we have 5 sports writing terminals for people to make their bets and 4 kiosk machines. And just to expand with that, I mean, we're already growing with the lines of people that we have, and to just make it more exciting place to be. I mean, right now everyone loves being there, and they become friends, people that don't even know each other, but they're cheering on the same team, and they're all friends. So just just more of that, just to see where we stand. I mean, we're only less than 6 months open, so we will see, and excited for the future.
And Ed, just your thoughts on tribal sovereignty, to tribal casinos, Indian gaming is part of tribal sovereignty, and also to benefit tribal citizens through economic development and the betterment of overall communities. So just your thoughts on Isleta Pueblo.
Right, and all of that goes hand in hand. I mean, if we can provide a great place for entertainment and people to go there as the business grows, then we benefit as a tribe, because we do have a good portion of our tribal budget is supported by the casino. So as that grows and our budget grows, we'd like to get more social programs in the works to help out the residents and the tribal members of Isleta. We are a sovereign nation. In fact, the first company that we went to that was going to help us out that was going to take the risk of setting our lines had to back out because they didn't want to, they wanted us to waive our sovereign immunity, and that's just something a tribe would never do. And so we went back to the drawing board and had to wait for another company that was willing to say, okay, we respect your right for sovereignty, and and we'll work with you. So.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here today, and we look forward to following this issue up in the future. And Ed, your Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, geez. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to take the over.
He's a huge sports fan,
Yes,
so I had to
he
ask
is.
him that. Well, thank you both.
Thank you very much for having us.